The Brussels ISIL terror cell are a group of people who have been connected to large-scale attacks in Paris and Brussels, as well as other smaller-scale terrorist attacks against European targets. The terror cell is connected to the Islamic State of Iraq and the Levant, a jihadist terrorist organization primarily based in Syria and Iraq and led by Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi. Background: before those attacks, several other Islamist terrorist attacks had originated from Belgium, and a number of counter-terrorist operations had been carried out there. In 2014, a gunman with ties to the Syrian civil war attacked the Jewish Museum of Belgium in Brussels, killing 4 people. In January 2015, anti-terrorist operations against a group thought to be planning a second Charlie Hebdo shooting had included raids in Brussels and Zaventem. The operation resulted in the deaths of 2 suspects. In August 2015, a suspected terrorist shot and stabbed passengers aboard a high-speed train on its way from Amsterdam to Paris via Brussels, before he was subdued by passengers. Belgium has more nationals fighting for jihadist forces as a proportion of its population than any other Western European country, with an estimated 440 Belgians having left for Syria and Iraq as of January 2015. Due to Belgium's weak security apparatus and competing intelligence agencies, it has become a hub of jihadist recruiting and terrorist activity. Main suspects: Abdelhamid Abraoud. Abdelhamid Abraoud was a Belgian-Moroccan Islamic terrorist who had spent time in Syria, known as a place where radical groups operate and train. He was suspected of having organized multiple terror attacks in Belgium and France, and is known to have masterminded in the November 2015 Paris attacks. Prior to the Paris attacks, there was an international arrest warrant issued for Abraoud for his activities in recruiting individuals to Islamic terrorism in Syria. Salah Abdeslam. Salah Abdeslam is a Belgian-born French national of Moroccan descent. He is accused of involvement in the attacks in Paris on the 13th of November 2015, through providing logistical support for the assailants and driving them to the target locations. He is thought to have been in charge of logistics for the group. Paris assailants. 3 teams, comprising 3 people each, executed the attacks. They wore explosive vests and belts with identical detonators. 7 perpetrators died at the scenes of their attacks. The other 2 were killed 5 days later during the Saint-Denis police raid. 3 suicide bombers blew themselves up near the Stade de France. Bilal Hadfi, a 20-year-old French citizen who had been living in Belgium. Hadfi attempted to enter the Stade de France but blew himself up nearby after being denied entry. He fought with ISIL in Syria for more than a year and was a supporter of the Nigerian extremist group Boko Haram. In the months before the attacks, he was active on social media, posting pro-jihadist messages, and communicated with the Libyan branch of ISIL. Belgian prosecutors knew Hadfi had gone to fight in Syria but did not know of his return to the EU. Another bomber carried a passport belonging to a 25-year-old Syrian named Ahmed al-Mohammed. A passport holder claiming to be a Syrian refugee with that name was registered on Leroz in October upon his arrival from Turkey. The dead attacker's fingerprints matched those taken at the registration on Leroz. French officials concluded that Ahmed al-Mohammed is probably a dead Syrian soldier whose passport was stolen after he was killed in Syria. ISIS identified him as Yukasser al-Iraqi, indicating that he was from Iraq. The third bomber has not been named by French police yet, but his image released by the authorities has been matched by the BBC with a photo on arrival papers at Leros belonging to a man travelling, together with Ahmed al-Mohammed, under the name of M. al-Mahmoud. Like the other unidentified bomber, ISIS identified him as an Iraqi and called him Ali al-Iraqi. Two men alongside Abdelhamid Abrad are thought to have carried out the shootings at bars and restaurants in Paris. Rafim Abdeslam, a 31-year-old French member of the Molenbeek terror cell living in Belgium, carried out shootings in the 10th and 11th arrondissements. Shortly afterwards, he blew himself up at the Comptoir Voltaire restaurant on the Boulevard Voltaire. Abu Bakr, a 25-year-old Belgian citizen of Moroccan descent who blew himself up during the St. Denis police raid that occurred 5 days after the Paris attacks. Akru was not identified until the 15th of January 2016. 3 other men attacked the Bataclan Theatre using AKMs and took hostages. 2 blew themselves up when police raided the theatre. The third was hit by police gunfire and his vest blew up when he fell. According to French police, they were Samia Mimour, a 28-year-old from Paris who fought in Yemen and was known to the intelligence services, had reportedly been on the run from police since 2012 due to being wanted over terrorism-related charges. Omar Ismail Mostafai, a 29-year-old from the Paris suburb of Courcouronnes, of Algerian descent, traveled to Syria in 2013 and may have spent time in Algeria. In 2010, the French authorities had put Mostafai on a database of suspected Islamic radicals. He was identified by a severed finger found inside the Bataclan. Fouad Mohamed Agad, a 23-year-old from Strasbourg of Moroccan descent, who traveled to Syria in 2013. Brussels suspects. Ibrahim el-Bakraoui was a Belgian national of Moroccan descent, confirmed to be one of the suicide bombers who attacked the Brussels airport during the Brussels bombings in 2016. Khalid el-Bakraoui was a Belgian national of Moroccan descent and the brother of Khalid el-Bakraoui, confirmed to be the suicide bomber who attacked Molenbeek metro station during the Brussels bombings. Najim Lakraoui was a Belgian Moroccan national, confirmed to be the second suicide bomber at the Brussels airport in the Brussels bombings. He is also suspected of making the bombs used in the November 2015 Paris attacks. In addition, Lakraoui was a suspected accomplice of Saleh Abdeslam, the surviving member of the group directly linked to the Paris attacks. Mohamed Abrini is a Belgian national of Moroccan descent who is alleged to have been involved in the planning and execution of the Paris attacks and the Brussels bombings. He was filmed together with Lakraoui and Ibrahim el-Bakraoui at the Brussels airport before the bombings occurred. Osama Krayem is a Swedish national of Syrian origin suspected of involvement in the Brussels bombings. Krayem was the second bomber at the Molenbeek metro station, having been filmed with Khalid el-Bakraoui at another metro station minutes before the attack. Other suspects. November 2015 Paris attacks. On the 14th of November, a car was stopped at the Belgium-France border and its 3 occupants were questioned then released. 3 more people were arrested in Molenbeek. Links to the attacks were investigated in an arrest in Germany on the 5th of November, when police stopped a 51-year-old man from Montenegro and found automatic handguns, hand grenades and explosives in his car. On 15-16 November, French tactical police units raided over 200 locations in France, arresting 23 people and seizing weapons. Another 104 people were placed under house arrest. On the 17th of November, police followed a cousin of the attacker and ringleader Abdulhamid Abraoud to a block of flats in St. Denis where they saw Abraoud with her, following a police raid on a flat in St. Denis during the next day, in which Abraoud and restaurant shooter Abu Bakr died, which lasted several hours. 8 suspected militants were arrested at and near the flat. On the 24th of November, 5 people in Belgium had been charged on suspicion of their involvement in the Paris attacks, and Belgian prosecutors issued an arrest warrant for Mohamed Abrini, a 30-year-old suspected accomplice of Salah Abdeslam. Abrini was subsequently reported to have been arrested on 8 April 2016. He is also suspected of having been involved in the bombings in Brussels. 4 months later, a person involved in the attacks made phone calls to Birmingham, England, the day before the attacks. Fabian Klein was identified as the person who released an audio recording the day before the Paris attacks in which he personally claimed responsibility for the attacks. Klein is known to intelligence services as a veteran jihadist belonging to ISIL, and of French nationality. A French national, he served 5 years from 2009 to 2014 in a French prison for recruiting fighters to go to Syria to join militant groups. Klein has been linked to other executed and planned terror attacks and is seen as a leader of known terrorists. Arrests during 2016 Brussels raids. On the 15th of March, police carried out a raid on a house in Forest, a suburb of Brussels, in relation to the November 2015 Paris attacks. 4 police officers were wounded in the raid, while 1 suspect was killed. The deceased suspect was identified as Mohamed Belkade, a 35-year-old Algerian citizen. 3 days later, on the 18th of March, a second raid was conducted in the Molenbeek area of Brussels. 5 people, including Salah Abdeslam, 3 of Abdeslam's relatives, and Monir Ahmed Alaj, were arrested. Abdeslam and Alaj were both injured during the raid. 2016 Brussels bombings. On the 24th of March, 6 people were arrested in police raids in Brussels, Jet and Schaerbeek, all in connection with the investigation into the bombings. As of the 26th of March, 12 men were arrested in connection with the bombings. The same day, Belgian prosecutors charged Fakel Chefo, who had been detained 2 days prior in front of the Belgian prosecutor's office, with terrorist murders, attempted murder relating to terror plots, and links to terror groups. Chefo was suspected of being the man on the right in the CCTV footage of the airport. However, on the 28th of March, Chefo was released due to a lack of evidence. On the 27th of March, an Algerian who was part of a counterfeiting ring that provided forged documents to the perpetrators in both the Paris and Brussels attacks was arrested in Italy. The Belgian government had issued a European arrest warrant for the man, who the Ansar news agency identified as 40-year-old Jamal ad-Din Wali on the 6th of January. Wali's name emerged during searches carried out in October in the St. Giles borough of Brussels, which yielded around 1,000 digital images that were being used to make false identity documents. 2 men were detained on the 25th of March but later exonerated for suspected connections to the cell. The first, a 28-year-old failed Moroccan male asylum seeker, was detained following a routine police check in Gießen, Germany, for being in contact with the Brussels attackers' immediate network. He had an acquaintance with a similar name to Khalid el-Bakraoui, and a text message with the word Fin was found on his cell phone. The Fin was initially interpreted as the end in French, though it turned out to be the word were transcribed from Arabic language. The second man, identified only as Samiri, was arrested in Düsseldorf, Germany, in connection with the bombings. planned terrorist activities. The cell initially planned to launch a second assault on Paris following the November 2015 attacks there. However, they chose to rush an attack on Brussels after being surprised by the progress of the French investigation.